A young man finds himself in a strange new world where the population is overwhelmingly female. He thinks he's adapted to this reality, but a hand reaching for him suggests his troubles are just beginning. An unexpected embrace from behind catches him off guard, proving he still doesn't grasp the rules of this place. He grimly considers the irony of unwanted popularity, a fantasy he never asked for. A persistent woman latches onto his arm, completely ignoring his obvious desire to be left alone. His polite refusals fail, so she escalates to demanding his contact information as he tries to leave. Just as she tries to slip her phone into his pocket, a voice calls his name, offering a sudden lifeline. A different girl intervenes, grabbing him and pulling him away from the relentless stranger. His rescuer, Kumi, flashes a bright smile, using their upcoming class as the perfect excuse. As they make their escape, he glances back, wondering if their getaway was a bit too rude. His pursuer isn't giving up, demanding they stop as Kumi drags him to safety. Her face contorts with fury, absolutely livid that her prize has been snatched away. He's still shaken by the aggressive encounter, the woman's intensity leaving him genuinely scared. Kumi calmly explains he should just ignore people like that, but he sheepishly admits his own kindness is the problem. With a slight pout, she points out that his excessive kindness is exactly what makes him a constant source of worry. He smirks, realizing that while her motherly concern is odd, she's absolutely right about the dangers of this world. The story flashes back, revealing he was transported here a month ago, into a world with an extreme 1.5 gender imbalance. As a result, the women are aggressively forward, and there are even serious political movements pushing for polygamy. He recalls the sheer terror he felt upon realizing he was no longer in his own world, a feeling of profound displacement. He wistfully remembers his previous life, realizing only now how much he took for granted the simple joy of goofing around with his friends. He remembers the despair, believing he'd have to give up any hope of a normal life. But despite the chaos, he found a guardian and made friends who helped him through the toughest times. And most importantly, his thoughts are interrupted as someone calls out to him. Kumi notices his strange mood, but he's just realizing that in this world, even she gives him the time of day. He feels a surge of confidence, thinking that maybe this bizarre reality isn't so bad after all. It's the kindness of others that has allowed him to find a silver lining in his strange new life. With renewed determination, he decides to embrace his new normal and live his life to the fullest. Kumi watches him with a soft smile, her expression hinting at a deeper understanding. But his optimism was short-lived, as he now realizes how naive his thinking truly was. The story flashes back to 1 week earlier, setting the scene for another pivotal event. The scene shifts to a week earlier, focusing on a girl who stayed up all night playing an online fantasy game. She fumes, recalling the entitled male players who expect to be treated like kings in the game. Musing on her frustrations, she wanders through the school grounds looking for her classroom. Her thoughts are interrupted as she overhears two guys casually rating her looks as she walks by. One of the guys audaciously declares he might consider dating her if she were to ask him first. She stops in her tracks, her face twisting in pure rage at their sheer, unadulterated arrogance. Completely oblivious, the guys continue their debate, claiming they have the right to be selective. This triggers a flood of bad memories, recalling all the times men have spoken down to her with condescending offers of friendship. Blinded by her fury, she isn't watching where she's going and bumps squarely into someone's back. But instead of another arrogant jerk, she looks up to find the protagonist, who gently pats her head and apologizes. He smirks, misinterpreting her collision as love at first sight and generously offering her a spot as his third girlfriend. His condescending words send a chill down her spine, leaving her utterly speechless with disgust. She storms into the lecture hall, her mind screaming with frustration at the sheer arrogance of men. Completely drained, she slumps over her desk, letting out a long, defeated sigh. She feels utterly hopeless, convinced she won't be able to endure the rest of the school day. Her friend Kumi notices her despair and points out that she's not going to last long at this rate. Kumi reminds her of their shared dream of a perfect campus life, urging her not to give up so easily. With infectious enthusiasm, Kumi declares her own mission is to snag a handsome boyfriend. The girl remains unimpressed, finding her friend's simple goal completely unacceptable. Kumi's friend then asks who she has her sharp, calculating eyes set on. She reflects on the world's twisted logic, where men are a rare commodity with the ultimate power to choose. Kumi is taken aback by her friend's disinterest, who then turns the question back on her while they play badminton. Her friend presses on, suggesting a handsome guy from their club, but Kumi denies having anyone in mind. Kumi clarifies her stance, stating she has no desire for a boyfriend whatsoever. She's simply exhausted by the constant pressure of being evaluated, while Kumi dreams of a respectful, kind partner. Kumi scoffs at her own daydream, dismissing the idea of such a perfect man as pure fantasy. Her friend playfully pokes her, pointing out that for someone so cute, Kumi is remarkably unassertive. With a grin, she warns that this lack of aggression will surely lead to a lonely future. Kumi's hand tightens as she silently concedes that her friend is probably right. Her gaze drifts across the crowded lecture hall, the thought of ending up single echoing in her mind. She watches another guy get swarmed by girls, resigning herself to a lonely fate due to her passive nature. After her friend leaves for the day, Kumi lets out a frustrated sigh while looking at her phone. A sudden class cancellation notification leaves her adrift in the hallway with no plans. She scrolls through her options, completely undecided on what to do with her unexpected free time. Her wandering gaze lands on the protagonist, who looks absolutely crushed while sitting alone with his laptop. She observes that he seems deeply troubled, yet the normally busy hallway is completely empty. Kumi imagines other girls flocking to him, but the thought of their entitled advances makes her cringe. Still, his genuinely worried expression makes her feel that walking away would be the wrong thing to do. She contrasts him with the arrogant men she despises, sensing a fundamental difference in his character. It's not just his appearance. She senses a unique inner quality that makes him shine. Driven by a strange curiosity, she approaches him, telling herself she expects nothing. She strikes up a conversation, asking if he's struggling with course registration. He smiles kindly, explaining his enrollment was delayed, and her heart skips a beat. She's captivated by his smile, a genuine expression she's never seen on a man before. Completely flustered, she stammers out an offer to help him with the process. She instantly regrets it, convinced he'll think she's just another aggressive girl hitting on him. But instead of rejection, his face lights up with pure, unadulterated joy at her offer. He happily tells her his department, and she's left speechless by his innocent gratitude. He makes room for her on the bench, sending her into a spiral of overthinking her next move. He turns to her with a look of concern, completely oblivious to her internal panic. She's convinced his genuine concern will make her break down and cry right there on the bench. Kumi brightens up, assuming he's a helpful senior from the same department. He sheepishly corrects her, admitting he's just a freshman, same as her. Her mind spirals again, terrified he'll now think she was just hitting on him. But he's just thrilled, explaining he has no friends in his year and that she's a lifesaver. With a charming smile, he introduces himself as Katasato Masato and asks for her name. She tries to calm her racing heart, scooting closer as she realizes just how genuinely kind he is. Forcing herself to stop overthinking, she puts on her best smile and introduces herself as Igarashi Kumi. Her face lights up with a blush as she formally greets him, completely smitten. He cheerfully repeats her name while she internally frets, hoping her smile didn't look as forced as it felt. He shows her his class schedule, which is completely blank, admitting he has no idea what to do. A brilliant idea sparks in Kumi's mind as she realizes this is a golden opportunity. He innocently suggests they take the same classes, triggering her fantasy of a perfect campus life together. Her hands tremble with nervous excitement as she hesitates, contemplating her next move. Gathering all her courage, she looks up with a blush and agrees they should have the same schedule. His expression shifts slightly, a hint of suspicion crossing his face as he questions her motives. She panics, launching into a rapid-fire explanation of the benefits, terrified he'll find her creepy. Convinced she's blown it, she hangs her head in defeat, bracing for the inevitable rejection. But instead of scorn, he leans in with genuine admiration, calling her an absolute genius. She's left utterly stunned, wondering why he isn't laughing at her obvious attempt to get closer. He questions her motives, worried she's getting nothing out of the deal, but she insists it's a huge help. He asks to see her schedule, and she can hardly believe her luck, wondering if this is all a dream. His radiant smile of gratitude completely disarms her as he thanks her for the help. He explains he can't attend class yet and has to go home, leaving her on the bench. As he leaves, she's already giddy with the thought of seeing him in class every single day. She happily bids him farewell, realizing this is the first time she's ever genuinely enjoyed talking to a guy. Just as he's about to leave, he suddenly stops, turning back with a hesitant look on his face. He nervously tells her there's one more favor he needs to ask, catching her by surprise. With surprising sincerity, he asks if she would be willing to be his friend. His simple, earnest request leaves her completely stunned and blushing, her heart pounding in her chest. She contrasts his earnestness with the condescending offers of friendship she's received from other men. Overjoyed, she accepts his offer, while he expresses his relief at finally making a friend. She watches him go with a lingering, love-struck gaze as he bids her farewell. Kumi admits that meeting him has completely changed her outlook on university life. He gives one last friendly wave before disappearing down the empty hallway. The moment he's gone, her knees buckle and she collapses, completely overwhelmed by the encounter. Her mind is consumed by a fantasy of him, realizing he's the prince she'd only ever dreamed of. With a blissful, teary smile, she cradles her face, whispering his name in a state of pure euphoria. Her expression hardens with newfound resolve, a determined glint in her eye. She now follows him closely, convinced she must protect him from the inevitable swarm of other girls. Kumi watches him, slightly exasperated by his complete obliviousness to her feelings. Yet she reflects that his charming innocence is one of the very things she likes about him. He catches up, noticing her thoughtful expression, but she quickly dismisses his concern. Masato suddenly stops her, asking for her hand with a serious look on his face. He places a few candies in her palm, a simple but sweet gesture of thanks for her earlier help. His radiant, blushing smile of gratitude sends her heart into a flutter. Overwhelmed by his charm, she declares him unfair before quickly turning to hide her blush and lead the way. The scene reveals other girls are also captivated by his kindness, which always seems to surprise them. His simple acts of consideration give them hope, a feeling of being saved from their cynical world. But Kumi's resolve only hardens, her intense feelings fueling her determination to win his heart. The story returns to the present, 1 month after Masato's arrival in this strange new world. He reflects on how he took the place of this world's version of himself, a recent high school graduate. His transition into a somewhat normal life was only possible because of his new guardian. That guardian, Tsukuda Aika, reminds him of his work shift as he prepares to leave for class. Aika had found him shortly after his arrival, becoming a literal lifesaver in his moment of crisis. She questions his recent habit of showering before work, which he casually dismisses as post-exercise cleanup. His simple excuse doesn't fool her, and she looks at him with a hint of suspicion. She then bombards him with a list of motherly rules, clearly worried about the dangers he faces. He cheerfully runs off, conveniently ignoring her demand that he drop the formal honorifics. On his way, he muses that in this world, he's the one who needs to be careful, a complete reversal of his old life. Kumi cheerfully waves from her seat, calling out to him in the crowded lecture hall. Masato scans the room, a lone guy navigating a sea of female students to find her. He finally spots her, looking slightly bewildered as he makes his way through the crowd. He thanks her for saving him a spot, and she flashes a victorious peace sign in return. As he settles in, she gently tugs his sleeve, while he silently appreciates having her as a friend. With a sly, blushing smile, she suggests he should treat her to a meal as a reward. Her bold request catches him completely off guard, leaving him momentarily speechless. She leans in closer, making him wonder if this adorable creature might actually have feelings for him. He quickly shakes off his surprise, politely turning her down because of his work shift that night. Undeterred, she immediately proposes another day, and he happily agrees to a meal next Monday. Kumi casually questions his work schedule, noticing a pattern in his Friday shifts. His agreement sends her into a silent, fist-pumping celebration of her victory. He's completely flustered by her adorable reaction, wondering if her charm is a calculated move. He reflects that in his original world, a kind and popular girl like her would have been completely unattainable. His gaze drifts across the classroom, assuming she has plenty of other friends she'd rather sit with. Feeling a pang of guilt, he questions if she's sure about monopolizing her time like this. He presses the issue, suggesting she'd probably have more fun with her own friend group. She pauses her note-taking, a thoughtful expression crossing her face as she considers his words. Kumi smoothly dismisses his concern, explaining she can see her friends any time at their club. He admits he's fine on his own, revealing he's already caught up with the class material. Kumi leans in with a disarming smile, pointedly asking why he'd think that. Her pointed question catches him off guard, leaving him to wonder what he said wrong. An awkward silence falls between them, his confusion contrasting with her gentle smile. He observes her smile but can't shake the unsettling feeling that it's somehow scary. The scene shifts to earlier, showing Kumi entering the lecture hall and scanning the room for Masato. With a sigh, she resolves to save him a spot, making her way to their usual seats. She blushes while composing a text, agonizing over the strategic deployment of a heart emoji. Her finger hovers over a sea of heart emojis, contemplating the perfect addition to her simple message. After a moment of reflection, she decides that after a month of friendship, he definitely wouldn't mind. She realizes his incredible kindness is what drew her in, but his lack of a guard around girls makes her worry constantly. Her mind races with scenarios of other girls tricking him, fueling her fierce determination to be his protector. She vows to stick by his side as much as possible throughout college, envisioning them together. Her imagination runs wild with a romantic embrace, fantasizing about protecting him everywhere before nervously dismissing the thought. A thank you text from him, complete with a cute cat sticker, arrives, and she can't help but blush at his charm. Clenching her fist, she reaffirms her mission to protect him, though a sliver of uncertainty remains. Reflecting on their time together, she decides their relationship is long overdue for a serious upgrade. Returning to the present, her internal monologue reveals her ultimate goal. She wants Masato to be her boyfriend. She understands she can't afford to fail, resolving to only confess when she's sure he'll accept. The plan solidifies in her mind, a one-on-one outing to discover his hobbies and see him outside their usual environment. The true nature of her plan dawns on her, and she gasps as her mind joyfully screams the word date. Realizing this is her chance, Kumi decides to use the situation to learn more about Masato. She worries her approach is too bold, but knows his obliviousness requires a direct move. Leaning in with a charming smile, she suggests they get a meal together as a thank you. He politely declines for that night due to work, but she immediately proposes the following Monday. His agreement sends her into a silent, fist-pumping celebration of her victory. Her mind immediately races with plans for their date, wondering where to go and what he'd enjoy. Masato, however, expresses concern that he's monopolizing her time, suggesting she sit with her other friends. His suggestion catches her off guard, and she quietly wonders why he would even think that. While he insists he's fine on his own, her internal monologue reveals she wants to spend all her time with him. She leans in impossibly close, her direct question about why he'd push her away, leaving him utterly stunned. He quickly clarifies his intentions, explaining he only thought she might want to spend time with other friends too. Her insecurity spirals, convincing her that he must want to be with a different girl and that she's not good enough. She grabs him in a panic, begging him not to push her away while he frantically tries to reassure her. With a bright, earnest smile, he insists he's grateful a beautiful girl like her is his friend, especially since she's his only one. His sudden compliment leaves her completely speechless, the words "beautiful girl" echoing in her mind. He gently tells her she's cute and should have more confidence, making her blush and wonder if he truly means it. The realization finally sinks in, and she's left flustered by the fact that he genuinely finds her cute. Overwhelmed with pure happiness, she cradles her face, savoring the feeling of being complimented by her crush. As he waves goodbye after class, he's slightly confused by her giddy mood while she watches him go. She reflects on her earlier paranoia, realizing she completely misinterpreted his kind and innocent words. She realizes her paranoia was baseless, as Masato never mentioned wanting to be with anyone else. Her friend Mizuho suddenly appears, calling her name and breaking her out of her happy daze. Kumi deflects with a smug look, teasing her friend who becomes instantly flustered. She playfully asks Mizuho about the obvious love-struck look on her face. Mizuho blushes, shyly admitting that she might have been caught crushing on someone. Kumi continues to poke fun at her, teasing her for making an innocent maiden-in-love face. But Mizuho cleverly turns the tables, asking about the handsome guy Kumi is always with. Now on the offensive, Mizuho gets close and demands to know when she'll get an introduction. She reminds a flustered Kumi of their pact to share information about potential boyfriends. Mizuho playfully accuses her of ditching their shared classes just to get cozy with the new hottie. Mizuho pouts, lamenting that as a connoisseur of handsome men, she feels personally slighted. Kumi bows deeply, offering a sincere apology and flatly refusing to introduce them. Mizuho demands an explanation, but Kumi's serious expression reveals this isn't a joke. Her internal monologue fiercely declares that she will not share Masato with anyone. Mizuho's expression shifts to a smug grin as she puts the pieces together. Kumi sweats nervously as her friend calls her out for being so dramatic with her bestie. Changing tactics, Mizuho grabs her, demanding information on other potential guys as compensation. Mizuho clings to a flustered Kumi, promising to do her best with any leads she gets. As Kumi tries to push her away, Mizuho boldly declares she'll be the first to find a boyfriend. Kumi accepts the challenge with a confident smirk, as Mizuho wishes her good luck in their friendly competition. Kumi reflects that since falling in love with Masato, her entire world has become brighter. However, a dark and possessive jealousy consumes her whenever other girls get close to him. She comes to a startling realization, concluding she would do absolutely anything for his sake. Her internal monologue reveals her true nature, as she admits to being an incredibly jealous person. The scene shifts to Masato on a basketball court, puzzled by Kumi's earlier behavior but glad she seemed happy. As he practices his shot on the seemingly empty court, a voice suddenly calls out his name. A new, younger-looking girl with a flower in her hair approaches him with a shy expression. She immediately clings to his arm, possessively warning him that she won't like it if he hangs out with other girls. The story then flashes back to Masato's arrival, showing him enjoying his quiet Friday basketball routine. He's completely unaware that two other girls are watching him, one lamenting that sports are no longer a casual activity. He recalls Kumi's frantic warning about her club, leaving him to find his own place to exercise. His solitary practice is interrupted by a familiar voice, reminding him his alone time is over. A determined young girl challenges him for the court, vowing that today she will finally be victorious. He playfully teases his challenger, who immediately protests his condescending nickname. This is Maida Yuka, a middle schooler he met not long after arriving in this strange world. He had found this court to play basketball, only to discover it was already her personal training ground. He recalls trying to give her the court, but she seemed disappointed by his simple kindness. Instead of accepting his offer, she boldly challenged him to a one-on-one match. Their rivalry for the court became a regular event, forging an unexpected friendship between them. He smirks, acknowledging that his height is currently the only thing giving him an edge in their games. He acknowledges her impressive talent, realizing she's a genuinely skilled player. Yuka, however, believes her secret strategy for today will finally grant her victory. She fakes him out with a quick crossover, but he's already anticipating her move. A sly look crosses her face, pleased that he's not underestimating her abilities. Masato smirks, confidently countering her move as if he's seen it 100 times. He expertly mirrors her movements, staying one step ahead and cutting off her path to the basket. But she surprises him with a sudden roll, a clever tactic he wasn't expecting. With lightning-fast footwork, she pivots around him, creating an opening. A confident blush spreads across her face, certain she's finally broken through his defense. Her victory is cut short as he effortlessly swats the ball away, leaving her completely stunned. He catches her just in time, expressing his relief as she looks up, completely stunned. Masato immediately panics, realizing the compromising position could get him into serious trouble. Desperate to defuse the situation, he knows he has to get her to move, but he's frozen. He's at a complete loss, unsure how to handle the awkwardness of the moment. The reality of their position finally hits Yuka, and her face flushes with pure embarrassment. Utterly disoriented, she's left dizzy and confused by the sudden turn of events. Yuka fondly recalls that this chaotic moment was the first time they truly spoke. The story flashes back 1 month to a time when Yuka overheard her friends discussing their love lives. One friend excitedly recounts confessing to her crush at graduation and getting a yes. Her friends then turn to Yuka, who denies having anyone she likes despite their teasing. Her friends gossip about her, noting she's wearing a bra while dismissing the boys in their class as immature. The teasing continues as they mock her for being tall, leaving Yuka flustered and embarrassed. The conversation turns to her height, with some classmates debating whether boys are even attracted to tall girls. A boy cruelly rejects a shorter girl, reinforcing the toxic social hierarchy of their class. Her friends continue their playful jabs, telling her she stands out too much because of her height. Yuka feels her worth is being judged solely on her appearance, wondering if she's the strange one for being upset. Meanwhile, the boys smugly declare they find none of the girls in their class attractive anyway. She decides that playing basketball is far more enjoyable than dealing with her classmates' immaturity. Yuka sadly reflects that she just wanted to play her favorite sport, but her friends jokingly call her a pervert. Her friends then cheerfully admit they only joined the basketball team to get closer to the boys. Yuka is utterly flustered by her friend's sudden accusation. Her friends playfully recall her reading suggestive material in class, a claim she vehemently denies. She desperately tries to silence her friend, who threatens to reveal more embarrassing secrets. Yuka defensively admits that she's just a normal girl with natural curiosities. She confesses that of course she's interested in boys, just not the immature ones she knows. As her friends continue their teasing, she insists she just hasn't met anyone who meets her standards. Seeking an escape, she heads to the basketball court, only to be stopped by the sound of someone already playing. She's surprised to find the court occupied, wondering who else would be there at this hour. She watches the player from a distance, figuring they can probably share the space. But as she gets closer, she's stunned to realize the lone player is a boy. She's taken aback, finding it highly unusual to see a boy practicing basketball all by himself. His explosive speed leaves her completely stunned as he darts across the court. She's mesmerized, realizing his incredible skill is something she's only ever witnessed in professional videos. Gripping the fence, she watches him intently, unable to look away from his fluid movements. He sinks a perfect shot, and she's left completely captivated by his effortless grace. Their eyes suddenly meet, and she's instantly flustered by how cool he looks up close. He offers her the court with a kind smile, and her heart begins to race uncontrollably. A wave of panic hits her as she realizes this might be her only chance to ever see him again. He's confused as she suddenly calls out, stopping him just as he was about to leave. Mustering all her courage, she nervously steps forward, determined not to let him get away. Her mind races, rejecting every bold idea as too desperate for a first encounter. She can only blush and say it's nothing, watching with a sigh as he prepares to leave. After berating herself for her hesitation, a new resolve hardens her expression. She vows to meet the mysterious boy again, practicing on the court with newfound purpose. The next day, she ignores her friend's reminder about club orientation, dead set on joining the basketball team. Her friends are left completely baffled by her sudden, intense focus on the sport. Yuka, however, is already back at the court, relentlessly practicing to improve her game. Her dedication is rewarded as she spots him arriving, dribbling the ball with practiced ease. She remembers the days he didn't show up, fearing she had missed her chance forever. But he's here now, his shooting form just as captivating as the first time she laid eyes on him. She watches him through the fence, blushing as she admires his cool demeanor. He suddenly stops and turns, having heard her approach, while she clenches her fist nervously. A look of recognition crosses his face as he remembers seeing her there before. She's completely taken aback, her eyes widening in shock that he recalls their brief meeting. Her mind races with joy, determined not to let this second chance slip away. Gathering her courage, she points directly at him and boldly challenges him to a match. Her unexpected request leaves him utterly stunned and speechless. She instantly regrets her boldness, panicking that she's ruined her chance and come off as strange. But he calmly accepts, admitting he was actually looking for someone to play against. With a confident smirk, he warns her that despite her age, he has no intention of going easy. She's completely flustered by his kindness, barely processing that her dream of playing with him is real. Their one-on-one match is a blur of exhilarating fun, the most she's enjoyed the game in a long time. Exhausted but happy, she thanks him for the game, wishing this perfect moment would never end. He compliments her impressive skills, while she admits he's the first boy her age to ever defeat her. Her competitive spirit only makes him grin, reminding her to stay hydrated after their intense match. When she admits she forgot a drink, he casually offers to share his own. She tries to refuse, but he insists, handing over his water bottle without a second thought. Her eyes widen in shock as she realizes the bottle he's giving her is already opened. The sudden realization of an indirect connection sends her into a blushing, panicked frenzy. Her mind spirals, completely captivated by the thought that his lips had just been on that very bottle. She panics, convinced he'll think she's a total creep if he ever found out what she was thinking, but her desire to drink from the bottle overwhelms her, creating a fierce internal battle. Her mind flashes to a romantic fantasy of sharing a kiss with him. She forces herself to act casual, bringing the bottle to her lips as if it's nothing. The thought of this simple act connecting her to him sends her imagination running wild. He calls out her name in concern, while she's completely lost in thought about how alluring he's been since they met. She recalls every detail of his appearance while playing, from his flushed cheeks to the sweat on his neck. She remembers chickening out of the indirect kiss, but finds solace in the fact that she ended up in his arms instead. He snaps her back to reality with a worried question, just as she realizes she's still on top of him. Mortified, she apologizes for the trouble, worried he now thinks she's a total weirdo for fainting. He reassures her it's fine, but points out the time, suggesting they both head home for the day. As he pats her head comfortingly, she inwardly frets about ruining her one chance with him. He then promises to return the following week, catching her completely off guard. With a bright smile, he tells her the court is hers again, his closeness making her blush furiously. He offers her a towel, leaving it on the bench and telling her to dry off properly. Sensing her hesitation, he quickly explains that it's a clean one, as he has his own. She stares at the towel, her heart pounding at the thought that it belongs to him. Her mind races, realizing that while the encounter wasn't perfect, she still made progress. He praises her improving skills, telling her to be more confident because he genuinely enjoys their matches. With a final wave, he leaves for the day, promising to see her again next week. She reflects that his encouraging words are exactly what she needed to hear. Left alone on the bench, she's surrounded by a blissful aura, completely lost in the moment. She buries her face in the towel he gave her, overwhelmed by the new and powerful feeling of having a crush. Clutching the towel, her heart pounds uncontrollably as she's completely overwhelmed by her emotions. Tears of joy and confusion stream down her face as she apologizes in her mind for her intense feelings. The scene abruptly shifts, revealing Masato at his part-time job, while Yuka imagines herself as a bad girl for her thoughts. Her mind pictures the club's environment, where men cater to the desires of their female clientele. A co-worker named Sarah watches with a complicated expression as Masato moves on to his next customer. The camera pans out to reveal the name of the establishment, a high-end host club called Boys Bar Festa. Inside, other hosts skillfully charm their wealthy female clients, who are completely captivated. Masato works his shift, observing the lively interactions between his co-workers and their clients. He reflects that this job was a condition for his housing, finding it painful to watch his kind senior act so differently. Despite the friendly staff, he struggles to adapt to the club's atmosphere of forced flattery. His guardian, Aika, who is also a client, calls him over, suggesting he join her since he can't drink with the others. She then playfully pulls another host closer, teasingly asking if her current companion isn't enough. After Masato politely declines her offer, her handsome companion smoothly steps in to comfort the pouting Aika. Masato breathes a quiet sigh of relief as Aika's attention shifts back to her chosen host for the evening. He retreats to the back, reflecting that his inability to flirt means he rarely gets chosen by customers. Just then, a coworker surprises him by announcing he has a request from a customer at table 3. His coworker clarifies it's from a regular client, leaving Masato utterly stunned by the unexpected summons. His coworker sends him off as Masato realizes only one person could be his regular. He nervously approaches the private booth, already knowing who he's about to see. He formally greets the woman, who turns out to be his convenience store coworker, Sarah. Sarah looks up at him, her expression a complicated mix of shyness and intensity. He notes her repeat visit, but she nervously claims she just happened to have free time. With a gentle smirk, he playfully calls her out, reminding her she used the same excuse last week. This is Mochizuki Sarah, an older woman who, for some strange reason, keeps requesting his company. He feels a sense of sympathy, figuring she must also find dealing with people exhausting at her own job. As other hosts get rowdy with their clients, Sarah sheepishly asks if he noticed the commotion. She admits it's her fault for requesting him, acknowledging the irony of a non-drinker working in a bar. Sarah is completely flustered by his agreement, leaning away as he confirms her assessment. She quickly insists she's not there for a drink, but because she's the perfect match for him. He smoothly agrees with her, thanking her for considering him the perfect match. With a charming smile, he playfully concedes that she might be right. He leans in, noting that while she's hard to read, he can tell she's a kind person. Aika and another host interrupt, teasing a panicked Sarah about being completely smitten with him. Sarah tries to save face, claiming she was forced to come by her senior and had no choice. She then points at him, insisting she only requested him because he's the least terrible option available. Her harsh words have no effect, as he simply smiles and says he's happy anyway. He offers to pour her a drink, explaining that even if he can only listen, he enjoys hearing her stories. Sarah questions his sincerity, assuming his kind words are just part of his job. He turns the tables, playfully suggesting she's the only one who would ever request his company. She leans back and accepts his playful jab, admitting she's the perfect client for a non-drinker like him. He watches her with a fond expression, genuinely happy to see her relaxing and smiling. He recalls her first visit, remembering how worried he was, which makes her current happiness even more meaningful. With a radiant smile, he expresses his belief that a beautiful woman like her deserves to be happy. Flustered by his compliment, she quickly changes the subject, mentioning something she wants to show him. A loud commotion from another table suddenly breaks the intimate mood of their conversation. Masato, seemingly unfazed, pulls out his phone to show her a picture of a cute cat he saw. He beams while showing her the photo, calling the cat his angel and melting her heart with his innocent charm. The story flashes back 1 month, showing Sarah at her soul-crushing office job. She tries to steel herself, determined to endure the daily grind of her workplace. But her senior immediately berates her for a mistake on a document, questioning her competence. Sarah calmly explains she was following instructions from another manager, looking utterly confused. The manager shamelessly denies it, gaslighting her and claiming Sarah must have misheard. Her senior then delivers a low blow, smugly suggesting her personality is why men avoid her. Nearby co-workers immediately start gossiping, whispering about her recent romantic rejection. The cruel rumor spreads that the guy she liked never even considered them a couple, leaving her utterly humiliated. She flashes back to her first college boyfriend, who callously dismissed her feelings and rejected her. He then revealed he already had 2 other girlfriends, completely shattering her heart and confidence. She looks back on that relationship, wondering if her happiness was just a desperate attempt to keep up with her friends. Overcome with regret, she collapses onto her bed, blaming her own foolishness for the heartbreak. She furiously punches her pillow, berating herself for being so desperate that she lowered her standards. Since that painful breakup, she has resigned herself to a life of lonely nights and empty comfort. Scrolling through endless posts of happy couples, she feels nothing but a profound sense of numbness. Her life becomes a bleak, repetitive cycle of sleeping, waking, and working, devoid of any joy. Staring into the void, she questions the very purpose of her existence, feeling utterly alone in the past, present, and future. Her bleak routine is interrupted when a coworker cheerfully suggests they all go to a boys' bar. The coworker insists that being around handsome men is just what she needs, a suggestion Sarah finds utterly exhausting. Though all she wants is to go home and sleep, she feels indebted to her senior and reluctantly considers the offer. Sarah reluctantly agrees, much to her coworker's absolute delight. Her friend explains she just wanted to cheer Sarah up, hoping a night out would help. The coworker pulls her into an excited hug, while Sarah can only hope she'll be able to enjoy herself. As they enter the bar, Sarah resolves to make some polite conversation before making a quick escape. She's never been to a place like this, but feels obligated to go along with her friend's kind gesture. A handsome host with light hair immediately recognizes her coworker, greeting her by name. Her friend's entire demeanor changes, becoming completely smitten as she greets her favorite host. Sarah is stunned by her coworker's flirty tone as the host asks who she'll be requesting. The coworker winks playfully, declaring her complete devotion to her chosen host. As the host leads her friend away, Sarah feels a wave of regret, wishing she could be anywhere else. Sarah watches with awkward disbelief, seeing a completely different flirtatious side to her respected senior. A group of charming hosts makes a grand entrance, formally welcoming the ladies to the club. She's left blushing and flustered by the sudden, overwhelming display of professional charm. As she takes her seat, she can't help but notice how undeniably handsome all the hosts are. She takes a sip of her drink, trying to convince herself that this might actually lift her spirits. But her cynicism immediately kicks in, assuming they're all secretly laughing at their clients. She feels a pang of guilt, admitting that despite her dark thoughts, the hosts remain perfectly professional. With her friend now happily occupied, Sarah just wants her assigned host to arrive so she can make a quick exit. Slumping in her seat, she feels utterly hopeless, trapped in a cycle of her own negativity. When a host finally joins her table, she resigns herself to making polite conversation before escaping. A polite voice suddenly cuts through her cynical thoughts, addressing her as "Milady." She turns to see Masato, who formally introduces himself as her companion for the night. His innocent charm leaves her stunned, wondering if he's some kind of angel. He leans in with a kind smile, politely asking for her name. His direct but gentle approach catches her completely off guard, making her blush. She shyly introduces herself as Sarah, and he greets her with surprising enthusiasm. His innocent baby-faced charm awakens a protective instinct she didn't know she had. Clutching her drink, she's captivated by the realization that men like him actually exist. He cheerfully mentions having the next day off, finding joy in the simple things. His infectious, innocent excitement over the coming weekend completely disarms her. He gushes about his simple weekend plans, and she finds herself captivated by his pure, unadulterated joy. A small, genuine smile escapes her lips, a reaction so foreign she barely recognizes it. He asks about her day off, and she realizes his unexpected innocence is what caught her completely off guard. Feeling surprisingly comfortable, she shyly admits that her main hobby is gaming. She immediately panics, convinced he'll now see her as just another nerdy girl with no social life. But instead of judgment, his eyes light up with genuine curiosity, eager to know more. His enthusiastic response moves her to tears as they discover a shared love for RPGs. As he asks for recommendations, her cynical mind questions if his kindness is just a professional act. Deciding to ignore her doubts, she takes a drink, resolving to enjoy the moment for what it is. But as the conversation continues, she wonders why she's opening up so easily to a complete stranger. She vents to Masato, furious that her boss publicly humiliated her by announcing her recent breakup. Staring at her drink, she admits she's lost count and blames herself for the entire situation. Masato gently questions her, trying to understand if her ex was the one who pursued her first. Sarah confesses she naively believed he wanted a real relationship, admitting she got completely carried away. A painful memory surfaces of him asking her out, and she laments not seeing the red flags sooner. With a self-deprecating smile, she calls herself a fool for falling for his act. She recalls being so blinded by the joy of her first confession that she ignored his smug, insincere grin. As she collapses onto the table in despair, Masato earnestly tries to reassure her that she's not to blame. She looks up with a bitter expression, resigning herself to the harsh reality that this is just how it is for women. Sarah bitterly states that women are denied any choice in this world, a fact she refuses to accept. Masato's eyes narrow with genuine anger, leaving Sarah to wonder why he's so upset on her behalf. He questions the very foundation of their society, wondering if the gender imbalance truly makes men superior. With a sharp look, he points out the unfairness of men receiving attention without any effort on their part. Sarah is deeply moved, realizing that no man she's ever known has shown such genuine empathy. He leans in with a disarming smile, confessing that he would want to date a kind person like her. His sudden, sincere compliment leaves her completely speechless, her eyes wide with shock and a deep blush. He passionately insists her ex was a fool, declaring that any man would be lucky to have someone as beautiful and kind as she is. Her internal monologue reveals he's become her angel, inspiring her to work harder just to be worthy of him. Her entire world now revolves around the image of Masato, the boy who showed her kindness. Lying in bed, she gazes at his photo on her phone with a blissful, love-struck smile. She admits to herself that she can no longer imagine a life without him. Sarah gets flustered, trying to find a flaw in him by calling him lanky. Her coworker calls her out for flirting, but Sarah frantically denies it, wishing she could stay. She internally praises his flawless appearance, admitting she was just desperate to find something wrong with him. Overcome with embarrassment, she hides her face and apologizes for teasing him. As he comforts her, she tearfully apologizes for being what she considers a pathetic adult. He kindly helps her up, playfully acknowledging her comment and inviting her to return. As their hands touch, her internal monologue confesses her true feelings for him. Her coworker is stunned as Sarah clings to Masato, openly admitting how much she likes him. She acknowledges her selfish possessiveness, wishing he didn't have to entertain any other women. Masato looks on in confusion, completely taken aback by her sudden declaration. She clings to him desperately, demanding that he only smile for her and reject all other clients. He gently places his hand over hers, calmly reassuring her that it's okay. He explains that he only works on Fridays, a fact she already knows well. With a gentle smile, he playfully calls her unfair for requesting him every single week without fail. As he sees her off, she internally admits that just seeing him on Fridays is not nearly enough. She warns him that if he keeps being so charming, she'll have no choice but to visit every week. Waving goodbye, her mind is consumed with the desire to spend even more time with him. Her coworker suddenly grabs her, demanding to know what the flirtatious exchange was all about. Sarah panics as her friend teases her for making a move while she was busy paying the bill. Her friend playfully denies her request, leaving a blushing Sarah to insist she forget the whole thing. The coworker celebrates the amusing scene, eager to drag a mortified Sarah to their next destination. Sarah reflects on her own behavior, realizing she can no longer judge her friend's smitten act. She admits that life has become more fun lately, largely because of Masato's influence. However, she also gives credit to her caring coworker, who has been a supportive friend. The two part ways at the train station, promising to see each other at work on Monday. As her friend leaves, Sarah realizes they stayed out so late that it's already past midnight. A sudden panic sets in as she checks the time, realizing she's missed the last train home. Just then, she spots Masato walking alone down the street, and her focus immediately shifts to him. Despite knowing it's wrong and even criminal, she begins to follow him, her obsession overriding her common sense. Masato suddenly stops and glances back, a flicker of confusion on his face as if he sensed something. Hidden around the corner, Sarah gasps for breath, panicking that he might have spotted her. She clutches her chest in terror as he continues walking, realizing she just narrowly avoided being caught. With a shaky sigh of relief, she fumbles with her bag, watching him disappear down the street. The moment he's out of sight, her legs give out and she collapses against a wall, utterly spent. She cradles her face, disgusted with herself for stooping to the level of a stalker. Her internal monologue reveals her deep self-loathing for her obsessive actions. Following his path, she discovers his apartment door and reads his last name, Katasato, from the nameplate. She frantically saves his address in her phone, questioning her own sanity but unable to stop herself. Standing outside his door, she hears the distinct sound of a shower running from within. A strange, euphoric smile spreads across her face, even as she's overwhelmed by the situation. The thought of him being just one wall away, completely vulnerable, sends an undeniable thrill through her. Her mind conjures a fantasy where she tearfully confesses her broken state directly to him. Slumped in the hallway, she's completely consumed by an obsessive feeling that she can no longer control. She pulls out her phone and begins recording, realizing she has crossed a line from which there is no return. The scene shifts to Masato, who receives a package of belongings sent from a foster care facility. He reflects that he lived in a foster home in his world, but some of these items are completely unfamiliar. As Aika watches, he examines a pair of shoes, pondering the strange overlaps between his old life and this new one. He theorizes that he and this world's version of Katasato Masato have somehow switched places. Aika reassures him that regardless of his past, she is committed to being his guardian. Masato expresses his gratitude towards Aika for her support. He promises to repay her kindness after graduation, making her smile. Aika encourages him to enjoy his campus life for now, free of worries. Masato reflects on the unfamiliar feeling of having a parental figure. Aika hopes the other version of Masato also found someone like her. Masato realizes he's running late, checking the time with a start. Kumi prepares for her date, having pampered herself all week. Masato apologizes for startling Kumi as he surprises her on the street. Kumi is flustered but happy to see Masato's dazzling smile. Masato compliments Kumi's cute outfit, making her blush. He casually admits he always finds her cute, then mentions his own limited wardrobe. Seizing the opportunity, Kumi suggests they go shopping for him before their movie starts. The thought that he constantly finds her cute sends a jolt of excitement through her. She worries she's being too pushy, but he quickly reassures her that he's happy to go. He playfully puts his fashion sense in her hands, asking her to be his personal stylist. His charming request leaves her momentarily flustered, thinking he's just teasing her. She quickly recovers, confidently accepting the mission to upgrade his style. Later, they arrive at the movie theater, their shopping trip clearly a success. Kumi apologizes for getting too into it, as Masato sits surrounded by their purchases. He insists she was a huge help, complimenting her taste and making her blush with pride. He remarks that he's set for clothes, while she internally admits she loved dressing him up to her own tastes. Inside the theater, Kumi notes how empty it is, realizing the weekday showing gives them more privacy. He admits he's new to romance movies, while she internally celebrates that they're practically alone. As the previews begin, he settles in to watch, completely unaware of her blushing gaze. Her internal monologue reveals she chose this specific movie for a very calculated reason. She secretly hopes the romantic atmosphere will finally make him see her in a different light. While he's engrossed in the screen, she watches him, waiting for the perfect moment to make her move. Her hand inches closer to his as she wonders how he would react to her touch. She hesitates for a moment, questioning if he would forgive such a forward action. Taking a leap of faith, she gently places her hand on his, hoping he'll accept her advance in the heat of the moment. She feigns being scared by the movie, a perfect excuse to hold his hand. Masato braces himself, knowing that if she pulls away now, he'll be completely crushed. A deep blush spreads across her face as she commits to her bold move. She just wants to feel his warmth, even for a moment, imagining a much closer embrace. To her relief, he doesn't pull away, and their fingers gently intertwine. The simple warmth of his hand sends her heart into a frantic, pounding rhythm. He tries to appear calm, but his own racing heartbeat is the only thing he can hear. They sit together in comfortable silence, and she hopes he'll forgive her for being so forward. After the movie, he beams with pure delight, completely moved by the romantic story. While he admits to shedding a tear, she internally confesses she was too. He happily admits he enjoyed watching a new genre, while she secretly hopes he's finally becoming aware of her. He eagerly asks her to recommend another movie, leaving her to ponder her next move. A blissful, blushing smile spreads across her face, her plan a resounding success. She enthusiastically agrees to future movie dates, vowing to herself that they will be a real couple one day. Her internal monologue reveals her simple, heartfelt desire to walk hand in hand with him. The following day, she's still lost in a blissful daze, reliving every moment of their perfect date. She joins her friend Mizuho in the cafeteria, who cheerfully waves after saving her a spot for lunch. Mizuho eyes her friend with a knowing smirk while digging into her hearty meal. With dramatic flair, Mizuho declares today is an important day for victory, leaving Kumi utterly confused. Kumi questions her friend's choice of a heavy katsudon bowl, a meal traditionally eaten for good luck before a big event. Mizuho's eyes sparkle as she reveals the true purpose of her victory meal. She dramatically declares her intention to win in love, leaving Kumi completely stunned. Kumi correctly guesses her crush is Kato from their club, as Mizuho recalls their frequent eye contact. Convinced she has a real chance, Mizuho's confidence prompts Kumi to ask if a confession is imminent. Mizuho gets defensive, telling Kumi not to mock her just because her own love life is going so well. Kumi can't hide a smug grin, which only makes her friend more flustered. Kumi confidently proposes a future double date, but Mizuho worries such a bold plan is tempting fate. With sage-like wisdom, Kumi advises that destiny waits for no one. Inspired by the pep talk, Mizuho abruptly stands, resolving to confess to her crush immediately. As her friend rushes off, Kumi is left behind, quietly wondering if this impulsive move will end well. Kumi recalls her friend's long history of rejections, but Mizuho simply brushes it off and moves on. Feeling that something is off about Kato, Kumi decides to take a quick look for him. She peers through a classroom window, but he's nowhere to be found. Undeterred, she continues her search down the empty school corridor. She decides to check the next classroom, hoping to finally locate him. Suddenly, she stops in her tracks, her expression hardening with disbelief at what she sees. Cautiously, she peeks around the corner, trying to remain hidden from view. She overhears Kato coldly telling a first-year student he's only talking to her out of obligation. He cruelly asks the girl if she mistook his kindness, leaving her to apologize with a devastated look. Kumi's eye narrows in pure fury, utterly disgusted by his two-faced nature. He coldly dismisses her, calling her confession a complete waste of his time. He then threatens her into silence, reminding her to know her place as Kumi's fury builds. Her internal monologue rages, calling him a disgusting human for daring to hurt her friend. She immediately regrets not recording the entire exchange as proof of his cruelty. A familiar voice suddenly calls her out, chiding her for eavesdropping. Kumi turns in frustration, realizing she missed the perfect chance to expose his true nature. She turns to find a dejected Mizuho, who has clearly just been rejected. Mizuho breaks down in dramatic tears, her confession having ended in a spectacular failure. Despite the fresh heartbreak, Mizuho quickly bounces back, lamenting that she really thought she had a chance. Kumi smiles warmly at her friend, reflecting that love is never as simple as it seems. Kumi comforts her friend, assuring her she deserves better and putting their double date plans on hold for now. She gently urges a hesitant Mizuho to get to her next class before the bell rings. Mizuho puts on a brave face, telling Kumi not to keep her own guy waiting as she heads off to cool down. Kumi reflects on her friend's kindness, noting how Mizuho is always positive and thinking of others even when she's hurt. With a sad smile, Kumi's only wish is for her wonderful friend to find true happiness. Later, Kumi heads to her own class, spotting Masato already seated in the lecture hall. She peeks inside to see Masato surrounded by other girls, one of whom boldly confesses her feelings for him. Kumi joins him at his desk, thanking him for saving her a seat as he hands her the class notes. He smiles warmly, explaining he's just returning the favor since she's always the one looking out for him. Her heart pounds in her chest as she internally compares her own intense feelings to those of the other girls. She internally praises his perfection, believing him to be a flawless angel. Her thoughts then darken, focusing on the person who hurt her friend. An intense rage builds within her, vowing she will never forgive Kato for what he did. Masato notices her sudden change in mood, asking with concern what happened. Upon hearing the story, Masato's own face twists with disgust and anger. Kumi knows her friend is too kind to expose Kato, even though she desperately wants to. She watches as Kato continues to fool everyone with his charming but completely fake persona. She realizes that with his popular reputation, no one would believe their word against his. Feeling completely helpless, she clenches her fist, frustrated that she can't get justice for her friend. She decides the only revenge they can get is to live a life far happier than his. Masato smirks, suggesting the best revenge is for Mizuho to find someone far better than a nobody like Kato. Kumi's fist tightens as she agrees with his plan for poetic justice. As Masato watches, she sits with a serene expression, wishing only for her friend's happiness. He correctly intuits how important Mizuho is to her, prompting a soft, knowing smile from Kumi. A fond memory flashes through her mind of the two of them walking happily together. With a bright, genuine smile, she confirms just how deep their friendship runs. Later, as she walks alone, she reaffirms that Mizuho is her most precious best friend. Her thoughts are violently interrupted as someone shoves her from behind, yelling aggressively. She falls to the ground, tears welling in her eyes from the shock and pain of the sudden assault. A pair of polished dress shoes stops deliberately in front of her, belonging to her unseen assailant. A calm voice asks if she's okay, a stark contrast to the violent shove. The scene flashes back, revealing it was Masato who found her, as she reflects on her hopes for her friend's happiness. Her mind drifts to an idealized vision of romance, where love is a wonderful and beautiful thing. She recalls her younger self, who desperately wanted to experience that sparkling feeling of falling in love. Her romantic ideals were shaped by stories and media that constantly portrayed love as a beautiful experience. But in reality, she was left questioning the very meaning of love and affection. She admits to finding some men attractive, but never felt the deep, heart-pounding connection she truly craved. Instead, she felt the crushing weight of societal pressure to settle for someone good enough. Believing this was her only option, she resolved to follow the same path as everyone else. This led her to desperately pursue relationships, believing she had to make all the effort just to be noticed. Kumi seethes, internally questioning the sheer audacity of the boy who hurt her friend. She pictures his arrogant thoughts, callously wondering why he should be burdened by someone else's feelings. Checking on the other rejected girl, she breathes a sigh of relief after seeing her walk away. Back with Mizuho, her friend surprisingly admits she isn't angry, because she partly understands. Mizuho confesses she didn't truly want to date him, but was just desperate for any boyfriend. She quickly changes her tune with a dramatic spin, playfully expressing her envy of Kumi's love life. Listening to her friend, Kumi feels a pang of guilt, admitting she's also to blame for having similar thoughts. She then tries to lighten the mood, jokingly offering to stir up some drama for Mizuho's next romantic attempt. With renewed optimism, Kumi declares it's time to find Mizuho a new and much better guy. But as the memory of Kato's cruel words resurfaces, her resolve wavers, leaving her confused and unsettled. Her confident facade shatters as she collapses under a desk, overwhelmed by her conflicting emotions. Tears stream down her face as she's consumed by a wave of self-pity and frustration. Later, she tries to dismiss her emotional turmoil as mere motion sickness, a flimsy excuse for her inner chaos. She berates herself for her weakness, feeling pathetic for letting someone else's cruelty affect her so deeply. Desperate for a quick fix, she stumbles through the station, hoping to find medicine for her sickness. She finds a strange comfort in her own invisibility, relieved that no one in the crowd notices her distress. She questions her own sanity, wondering why she's so devastated over a rejection that wasn't even her own. With a wry smile, she admits her mental fortitude is lacking if a few harsh words can unravel her so completely. Her self-reflection is cut short as a sudden realization makes her stop dead in her tracks. As she hastily wipes away a tear, she realizes she's no longer alone, her private moment now interrupted. A sudden, forceful shove sends her stumbling forward in surprise. The other girl cruelly berates her as Kumi falls to the ground, wincing from the impact. In a panic, she realizes the collision knocked her contact lenses out, blurring her vision completely. Unable to see, she desperately apologizes to the surrounding crowd, explaining her predicament. While she searches helplessly on the ground, the girl who pushed her and her friends simply watch and whisper. She continues to apologize to passers-by, feeling the weight of everyone's judgment. Overwhelmed with humiliation, she feels her pathetic state is on full display for the world to see. A kind voice cuts through her despair, asking if she's all right as she reflects on her terrible day. She looks up with tear-filled eyes to see Masato standing over her with a concerned expression. Her mind flashes to her idealized image of him, her personal angel, always there to save her. He immediately kneels beside her, offering to help find her lost contact lenses. She tearfully thanks him, her blurry vision preventing her from recognizing her kind rescuer. A wave of embarrassment washes over her, a deep blush coloring her cheeks at her vulnerable state. In her eyes, he's a shining hero, diligently searching the ground to rescue her from her plight. Mortified by her tear-streaked face, she tries to hide, convinced she looks pathetic in front of him. She's stunned that anyone would stop to help someone so pathetic, a thought that only makes her feel worse. The surrounding noise of the station fades away, replaced by the deafening sound of her own frantic heartbeat. Just moments before, the world had felt like an unbearable, crushing weight. As they both search, their hands hover mere inches apart, creating a moment of unspoken connection. In that moment, the bustling station and all its judging eyes seem to disappear, leaving only the two of them. The girls who pushed her walk away without a second glance, leaving Kumi and Masato to search alone. After a moment, Masato's voice cuts through her despair as he triumphantly announces his success. He holds up the tiny contact lens with a look of pure relief, genuinely glad he could find it for her. He carefully offers it back to her, and she can only stare, still processing his unexpected act of kindness. With a gentle smile, he reminds her to be careful, his concern making the moment feel even more surreal. As she takes the lens, she's overwhelmed by his polite demeanor, stammering her gratitude. He asks about the other lens, but she clarifies only one fell out, her mind comically equating it to receiving a precious gem. A wave of panic washes over her as she realizes how much trouble she's been. She's mortified to realize she could have managed with one eye, making his heroic rescue feel completely unnecessary. He, however, is simply beaming, completely unaware of her internal crisis and just happy that she's okay. He offers to help her find a mirror, but she insists she's fine, not wanting to be any more of a burden. With a final gentle warning to be careful, his kindness leaves her completely captivated. He gives her a friendly wave and turns to leave, catching her completely off guard. As he walks off, he tells her to keep a handkerchief he'd given her, leaving her heart pounding in confusion. A sudden panic sets in as she realizes she hasn't even asked for his name. She stands frozen, feeling like a complete mess as her chance slips away. Watching his dazzling figure disappear into the crowd, she feels utterly hopeless. Left alone, she clutches the handkerchief and berates herself for her hesitation. Overcome with regret, she collapses to the ground, furious that she didn't even ask for his name. She realizes that with his name, she would have had the perfect excuse to see him again by returning the handkerchief. She clutches her chest, feeling the overwhelming thump of her heart still ringing in her ears. Her mind conjures a sparkling image of him, wondering if this heart-racing feeling is finally love. Overwhelmed by this powerful new emotion, she buries her tear-streaked face in the handkerchief he gave her. As she sits on the ground, a lone pen on the pavement catches her eye, realizing he must have dropped it. The scene then shifts abruptly, returning to the familiar sign of the boys' bar festa. Masato bursts through the door carrying supplies, apologizing for his late arrival. A co-worker welcomes him back, while a surprised Mizuho questions why he's working on a day that isn't Friday. Mizuho suddenly reaches out to fix his hair, leaving a confused Masato to wonder what she's doing. She then pulls him into a triumphant hug, proudly celebrating her successful styling attempt. Leaning in, she explains she thought the new look would suit him, admitting a senior host helped her out. A coworker playfully asks another host, Yusuke, if he got hurt, noticing a mark on his neck. Yusuke proudly declares the mark is from his girlfriend, as Masato reflects that this host's mindset is the most normal one here. A senior host orders everyone back to work, and Masato volunteers for the menial task of restocking supplies. Masato internally praises his senior, respecting him for being genuinely kind and not arrogant toward women. While cleaning the bathroom, Masato thinks back on the girl he helped, regretting that he had to leave her so abruptly. He stocks the toilet paper, his thoughts still lingering on the girl from the station, hoping she's all right. The scene flashes to Kumi, who looks up with a deeply emotional and determined expression. Masato recalls the reason for her tears, remembering she was distraught over losing her contact lens. After finishing his cleaning duties, he prepares to sign off on the work checklist. He realizes his pen is missing, just as a coworker urgently tells him to get ready for a client request. He immediately realizes the request must be from his one and only regular Sarah. Adjusting his tie, he finds it strange she's visiting on a day that isn't Friday. He frets about his messy hair, wondering what kind of impression he'll make. In his mind, he pictures her being thoroughly unimpressed by his disheveled appearance. Masato approaches her table and calls her name, but she refuses to look up. He confidently strides toward her booth, ready to begin his shift as her host. He finds her sitting alone, looking utterly dejected and withdrawn from the world. As he joins her, he immediately senses that something is wrong with her usual demeanor. He flashes a determined smile, making it his personal mission to lift her spirits. Seeing her bowed head, he suspects she must have had another terrible day at work. He explains his casual attire, admitting he wasn't scheduled to be on the floor today. She reveals she spotted him entering the club by chance while she was running an errand. She nervously asks for his opinion on her new hairstyle, admitting a senior did it for her. He simply agrees with a gentle smile, putting her at ease with his quiet affirmation. Sensing her distress, he encourages her to open up, creating a safe space for her to talk. With a radiant smile, he confesses he genuinely enjoys their conversations, just as he always does. Overwhelmed by his kindness, she breaks down, burying her face in her hands and apologizing profusely. Wiping away a tear, she confesses that she saw something that deeply upset her. Her repeated apologies leave him utterly confused, unsure what she could possibly be sorry for. A flashback reveals the source of her pain. She saw him being kind to another girl at the station. Her flashback frames his simple act of kindness as a scene straight out of a romance novel. She sees the girl at the station as the story's princess, meeting her charming prince for the very first time. This perfect fairy tale moment forces Sarah to question her own insignificant role in the narrative. She watches from the sidelines, casting herself as a background extra who hopelessly admires the male lead. Her hand clenches tightly as she internally rejects this passive, insignificant part. Her mind descends into a frantic spiral of denial, refusing to be written out of the story. With desperate possessiveness, she reaches out, convinced that she is the one who should be with Masato. She recalls the other girl's disheveled state, a flicker of hope igniting that she might still have a chance. That hope is immediately crushed by a wave of self-loathing for her own jealous and cruel thoughts. She resigns herself to being a background character, forever jealous of the heroine who gets to be with the prince. With a heavy heart, she finally confesses to Masato that she ended up stalking him. She recalls her inner conflict, knowing her actions were wrong but unable to let go of the information she gathered. Her mind torments her with jealous fantasies, imagining herself interrogating him about the other girl. Overwhelmed by her own dark thoughts, she clutches her head, unable to form a coherent sentence. Masato's voice cuts through her panic, gently reassuring her that everything is okay. He places a comforting hand on her shoulder, trying to ground her in the present moment. He calmly tells her that whatever she's feeling, he's sure she's not the one at fault. With a kind and trusting smile, he reaffirms his belief that she is a genuinely good person. His unwavering kindness is too much for her to bear, and she turns away, whispering another apology. She finally breaks, apologizing for everything, for stalking him, for seeing him with the other girl, and for the ugly jealousy consuming her. Overwhelmed by her confession, she hides her face, whispering another apology. Her internal monologue reveals her terror, believing she would die if he ever came to hate her. In a desperate move, she throws her arms around him, convinced she's the worst woman in the world. Masato is left completely stunned by the sudden embrace, unsure how to respond. Her hand clutches his jacket, a desperate grip that reveals the depth of her emotional turmoil. He gently returns the hug, trying to comfort her by reaffirming his belief in her kindness. But her self-loathing only intensifies. Convinced she's realized a terrible, selfish truth about herself, her mind twists his image, her internal monologue now blaming him for her current state. She immediately hates herself for this thought, recognizing she's just trying to escape her own guilt. Her thoughts conclude that he's the one responsible for making her fall so hard and lose all control. Her internal monologue twists into a dark desire to not only claim him, but to completely ruin him. With her hands on his back, she decides to apologize in advance for what she knows she's about to do. A chilling smile forms on her lips as she whispers a final, ominous apology. Her mind goes dark as she vows to herself that she is never ever letting him go. The scene shifts to Kumi, who examines the handkerchief and the pen he left behind at the station. Sitting in her room, she twirls the pen, feeling a strange sense of familiarity with it. Her eyes widen in shock as she suddenly recognizes the logo printed on the side of the pen. She clutches it tightly, realizing with disbelief that it's a pen from her own university. A hopeful smile spreads across her face as she wonders if this means they're fellow students. Overcome with giddy excitement, she collapses onto her bed, giggling at her incredible luck. She clutches the pen, her heart pounding with a sparkling new emotion she's never felt before. The scene cuts to Sarah clinging to Masato, her own twisted idea of destiny taking a dark hold. Back with Kumi, she smiles, convinced her own threads of fate are finally moving in an unexpected direction. A few days later, Mizuho listens with weary sarcasm as Kumi declares their meeting was a destined encounter. The narration reminds us that this is just a short time after Mizuho's own harsh romantic rejection. Kumi gushes about how destiny must be real, while a flustered Mizuho just wants her old worries back. Mizuho explains that ever since the incident, Kumi has been convinced her rescuer is a destined prince. She recalls how deeply Kumi was affected by her rejection, finding it hard to watch her friend so crushed on her behalf. Despite being exhausted from hearing the story on repeat, Mizuho admits she's genuinely glad for her friend. Kumi reflects on her friend's situation, wondering if this was the first time Mizuho had found someone she could truly fall for. Kumi dramatically claims she's had many loves since she was a child, but she insists this time is different, believing she's finally experiencing true love. She then playfully reveals she was just kidding, leaning in close to a flustered Mizuho. With renewed determination, she asks her friend to help her find her mysterious rescuer. Kumi playfully dubs Mizuho her Watson, much to her friend's annoyance. Mizuho points out the obvious flaw in her plan. Kumi can't even remember his face. She explains that the university pen is a common item given to all new students, making it a poor clue. Kumi insists she'll recognize him on sight, vaguely recalling he had slicked back hair. She gives her friend a pep talk, declaring that giving up is not an option, leaving Mizuho confused by the sudden lecture. Kumi imagines herself as the grateful crane from a folktale, determined to repay his kindness, as Mizuho dryly notes her friend is living in a fairy tale. Kumi clutches the handkerchief, explaining her plan to use it as the perfect excuse to see her rescuer again. Her search is put on hold when she receives a text from Masato, asking her to join him for their next class. Mizuho glances over at her friend, a thoughtful and slightly suspicious look crossing her face. Kumi reflects that she used to keep friends away from Masato, but now feels it's safe to introduce him to Mizuho. She admits to feeling guilty for isolating Masato, realizing her possessiveness left him with no other friends. With newfound confidence, she invites a surprised Mizuho to join her and Masato for their next lecture. Mizuho calls her out, questioning why she's suddenly allowed to meet the guy she's been kept away from for so long. Kumi's internal monologue reveals her true fear. She's convinced no one can resist Masato's charm for more than 30 seconds. Despite her friend's strange logic, Mizuho's eyes sparkle with excitement at the prospect of meeting him. Mizuho puts on a grumpy face, but internally admits she's delighted by the unexpected invitation. Mizuho playfully teases that love can ruin a person, leaving Kumi to accuse her of making fun of her. Mizuho admits she's always wanted to meet Kumi's bae, while a flustered Kumi insists they're not dating. Kumi begs her friend not to say anything strange, but Mizuho proudly promises to be her official promo ambassador. With a determined look, Mizuho grabs Kumi's shoulders, urging her to just confess her feelings already. Kumi laughingly dismisses her friend's advice, telling her to mind her own business. She sends a text inviting Masato to join her and Mizuho for class, and he quickly agrees. Masato is relieved that Kumi is still close with her friends, happy that she's introducing him to her circle. As he arrives at the classroom, he reflects on his worry that she was isolating herself for his sake. Kumi proudly introduces a very eager Mizuho to a curious Masato. As Kumi waves him over, Masato looks past her to Mizuho, finally meeting the friend he's heard about. Kumi proudly presents her best friend Mizuho with a grand gesture. Masato is immediately struck by Mizuho's unique beauty, wondering if this world is filled with only gorgeous women. Mizuho's stoic expression breaks as she's left completely captivated by Masato's appearance. Kumi then turns the tables, proudly introducing her friend Katasato Masato. Masato greets Mizuho warmly, mentioning that Kumi has told him all about her. His friendly greeting is met with a sudden awkward silence from both girls. Masato immediately panics, wondering if his casual greeting came off as too forward or creepy. Kumi notices her friend's strange reaction, calling out her name with concern. Mizuho suddenly snaps out of her trance, gushing about how surprised she is to finally meet him. She leans in for a closer look, confirming to herself that he is indeed very handsome, much to Kumi's embarrassment. Mizuho formally introduces herself, extending a hand to Masato. Her forward personality amuses him, and he finds her quite lively. Kumi watches in exasperation as Mizuho playfully ignores her earlier warnings. Undeterred, Mizuho confidently reintroduces herself with a bright, welcoming smile. Masato politely shakes her hand as they formally exchange greetings. As their hands meet, he's surprised by how small and delicate her hand feels in his. The simple touch leaves him slightly flustered, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. He observes her petite frame, realizing she's even smaller than Kumi. Her cheerful yet seemingly fragile demeanor makes him feel a strange sense of protectiveness. Her energetic personality catches him completely off guard, feeling like an unexpected pop quiz. After class, Mizuho and Masato both thank Kumi for sharing her life-saving notes. Kumi suddenly stops in her tracks, realizing she's forgotten something important. She tells them to go on without her, but Masato kindly insists on waiting. Mizuho immediately offers to hold Kumi's bag, stepping in to help her friend. Kumi gratefully accepts and dashes back to the classroom, leaving the two of them alone. Masato suggests they find a bench to wait, and an eager Mizuho happily leads the way. While they wait, Mizuho praises Masato for his incredible kindness in waiting for Kumi. He seems confused by the praise, believing that waiting for a friend is just common courtesy. Mizuho, however, is deeply impressed, convinced she's witnessed the heart of a true gentleman. As they sit outside, she suddenly turns to him, ready to ask a question. Mizuho leans in with a serious expression, announcing she has something important to tell Masato. She strikes a dramatic pose, building the suspense before her big reveal as he looks on. His face contorts in pure shock, completely unprepared for what she's about to say. With a hopeful, sparkling expression, she asks him to help her find her own destined partner. A bewildered Masato agrees to help, asking for the most basic information, the person's name. She vaguely explains her destined love is probably a first-year student, leaving him even more baffled. To his complete disbelief, she playfully winks and admits she doesn't actually know the man's name. He presses for more details, but she cheerfully admits she knows almost nothing, frustrating him with the vague request. She finally offers a clue, describing her mystery man as having slicked back hair. Masato ponders this rare characteristic, as Mizuho adds that the man's height is similar to his own. Mizuho steals a quick, thoughtful glance at Masato, a flicker of recognition in her eyes. She internally notes his voice sounds familiar, but quickly dismisses the strange feeling. She desperately begs him to use his social network to find her mystery man, reminding him he's Kumi's guy. He hesitates, wanting to help but unsure how, which makes Mizuho worry she's being too demanding. With a blush of embarrassment, Masato bows his head and confesses that he has no friends to ask. Mizuho is shocked by his confession, though she recalls hearing he was a late transfer with few friends. As Kumi returns, a grateful Mizuho thanks Masato for his help, secretly worrying she made him uncomfortable. Despite the awkwardness, a bright smile spreads across Mizuho's face as she realizes she's having fun. Kumi returns to find Mizuho excitedly announcing Masato's help, though he admits he has no leads. Walking together, Kumi reflects on how well they all get along, hoping the three of them can stay friends. As Kumi waves goodbye at the station, she feels a surge of excitement for her newly fun university life. Mizuho realizes she and Masato take the same train, feeling a pang of guilt for leaving Kumi behind. Seizing the moment, Mizuho decides to do some digging and asks Masato about his relationship with Kumi. Masato simply smiles, explaining that he thinks Kumi is just a very kind person. She playfully presses him for more, but he insists they are just friends and nothing more. He elaborates that he's just grateful for her kindness when he was new and friendless, and wants to honor that. Mizuho gives him a skeptical look, finding his purely platonic explanation hard to believe. She quickly realizes from his genuine smile that he is completely oblivious to Kumi's romantic feelings. From a distance, Kumi watches them walk away, seeing Mizuho laugh off her interrogation as Masato looks on. Mizuho playfully calls him a heartbreaker, sighing at his cluelessness while silently wishing her friend good luck. Mizuho's eyes widen in shock, her expression filled with disbelief. Masato spots Mizuho and calls out to her, noticing her distressed state. Mizuho tries to hide her face, embarrassed to be seen in such a vulnerable position. Kato and Satsuki approach, their conversation revealing a cruel disregard for Mizuho's feelings. Satsuki comforts a heartbroken first year, while Kato blames Mizuho for the situation. Masato urges Mizuho to leave, sensing the tension and wanting to protect her. Kato taunts Mizuho, his words dripping with malice and disdain. Mizuho struggles to stand, her legs shaking as she tries to compose herself. Masato reflects on their budding friendship, disappointed by Kato's behavior. Mizuho fights back tears, determined to maintain her composure despite the humiliation. Mizuho internally vows never to feel so pathetic again, convinced she's just an outsider. Masato confronts Kato, admitting he doesn't know the full story but demanding he take back his cruel words. Kato's internal monologue cruelly dismisses Mizuho, believing no one would ever date her. Masato proudly identifies himself as Mizuho's friend, while Kato scoffs at the idea of him being her boyfriend. Masato furiously refutes the insult, insisting that Mizuho is incredibly cute. Mizuho looks up, her eyes sparkling with emotion, completely stunned by his fierce defense. He reiterates that while he doesn't know the details, he knows for a fact that Kato's comment was wrong. Turning to Mizuho with a warm smile, he declares that she is cute in both her looks and personality. Kato arrogantly claims a higher position because she confessed to him, a logic that completely baffles Masato. Overwhelmed by his actions, Mizuho internally praises him as a kind-hearted and wonderful person. Mizuho's internal monologue insists Masato is wrong, believing the person confessed to always holds the power. She tells herself there's no reason for him to get angry for her, as she's the type who moves on quickly. Despite her rationalizations, a deep blush spreads across her face, completely overwhelmed by his fierce defense. Kato sneers, asking if Masato would actually date her, but Masato retorts that he'd never compare her to a user like Kato. Stung by the comeback, a frustrated Kato can only manage to call him an idiot. Deciding the conversation is over, Masato grabs a stunned Mizuho and pulls her away from the scene. Kato and Satsuki watch them leave, with Satsuki urging her friend to just drop it and go. As he leads her down the hall, Mizuho looks up at him, still trying to process his bold actions. Once they've stopped, she immediately apologizes, worried she's caused him trouble. He admits he acted rashly, but she quickly reassures him, grateful for his intervention. She apologizes, feeling worse for dragging him into her mess than for the rejection itself. He tries to cheer her up by offering to buy her a drink, but she internally panics, remembering he's the one Kumi likes. A soft, envious smile crosses her face as she admits to herself how jealous she is of her friend. She reflects on how lucky Kumi is to be able to openly like such a wonderful person. Putting on a brave face, she laughs off the embarrassing moment and thanks him for his help. She admits she never would have confessed if she knew Kato's true nature, trying to convince herself it's okay to be hurt. Despite her tough act, she acknowledges that no one could remain unaffected by such cruel words. Masato gently places a hand on her shoulder, seeing right through her cheerful facade and acknowledging her pain. Flustered by the emotional moment, he abruptly announces he's going to buy them drinks and dashes off. Left alone, Mizuho slumps to the ground just as Kumi arrives with her friends, completely unaware of the recent drama. Mizuho questions her own weakness, admitting that his kindness hurts her heart. She knows she must suppress her feelings, reminding herself that he belongs to her best friend. Unable to contain her emotions, she breaks down, overwhelmed by the impossible situation. In her mind, she apologizes profusely to Kumi, consumed by guilt for betraying their friendship. She realizes with a pained heart just how incredibly difficult and complicated love can be. The scene shifts to Friday, a day a new character has been eagerly looking forward to. A chibi-style flashback shows a first-year student complaining about the exhausting events of the past week. A girl named Yuka clutches a basketball, hoping she gets to play with her upperclassman crush today. Her friend complains about first years being stuck with all the menial club chores. Yuka admits she doesn't mind the work since it means she'll get to see her crush after school. Her friend suddenly asks where she's been sneaking off to on Fridays, leaving Yuka completely flustered. The friend immediately jumps to conclusions, teasing that Yuka's panicked reaction means she has a secret boyfriend. Yuka insists their relationship is innocent, but her dreamy smile betrays her true feelings for her basketball mentor. Intrigued, her friends decide to follow her after school to get a look at this mystery guy. Yuka panics, desperately trying to forbid them from following her and ruining her plans. She internally worries that if her friends see how cool he is, they'll all start flocking to him. Knowing he's too kind to refuse them, she fears her special one-on-one time will be over for good. Her thoughts are interrupted as she nervously greets a group of second-year upperclassmen. A confident-looking girl with her arms crossed smirks down at her, asking if she's enjoying herself. Yuka internally identifies the girl as her intimidating mentor, whom she dislikes, just as the mentor asks if she has a boyfriend. Yuka is visibly annoyed as her friends speculate that her secret crush must be ugly. The mentor dismisses Yuka and walks off with a male student, leaving Yuka to watch them go. Her friends rush to her side, asking if she's okay and commenting on the mentor's unpleasant attitude. Yuka internally fumes, disgusted that the mentor would bring her boyfriend just to show off. Arriving home, she clenches her fist, vowing she'll never forgive the mentor for insulting her brother. She eagerly anticipates seeing her brother, knowing his presence will make all her troubles vanish. She nervously holds one of his shirts, blushing as she tries to catch his lingering scent. Her thoughts turn to a towel she borrowed from him, realizing she needs to return it. Clutching the towel, she's overcome with a wave of pure bliss, her face flushing with emotion. She internally marvels at how powerful his scent is, feeling like she's melting even though the towel has been washed. She justifies her actions, deciding one last moment with the towel is harmless before she washes it. Her private moment is shattered when her mother walks in, catching her completely off guard. Her mother calmly reminds her she was just bringing the water bottle Yuka had requested, leaving the girl mortified. After being handed the bottle, Yuka rushes off for her practice, leaving her mother to wonder about the weather. She arrives at the basketball court, the familiar sound of a bouncing ball greeting her as she opens the gate. She internally vows to challenge her brother, only to be immediately distracted by how cool he looks. He turns to her with a warm smile, happy to see that she's finally arrived for their game. As she sets down her bag, her mind drifts, thinking about their unique relationship. She cherishes the way he calls her by her name without any formal titles, seeing it as a sign of their closeness. His expression turns serious as he clenches his fist, signaling that he's ready to play. She boldly declares they are rivals, telling him not to hold back. Yuka immediately cringes at her own formal tone while he just chuckles. He breaks into a radiant smile, happily agreeing to her terms. She looks on, completely captivated by his cheerful acceptance. He tells her he's taking his usual spot, and she internally cheers with delight. Eager to begin, she gets ready to play, her happiness overflowing. He firmly reminds her to warm up first, recalling her clumsy fall from the previous week. She readily agrees, finding his strictness endearing and cute. The sound of a bouncing ball signals the start of their one-on-one match. Yuka makes a swift move to get past him, catching him off guard with her speed. With a determined leap, Yuka sinks the ball, easily getting past her brother's defense. He admits he was genuinely trying to block her, impressed by her rapidly improving skills. Overjoyed by his praise, she pumps her fists, her face beaming with pride. He smiles, playfully warning her that she might just reclaim her old spot on the court. Filled with renewed confidence, she looks up at him and declares that she absolutely will. Their game is abruptly cut short as a sudden downpour begins, catching them both by surprise. They quickly dash for shelter, watching the heavy rain soak the basketball court. He asks if she has a towel, and she shyly confirms she does, her eyes wide with anticipation. Her thoughts spiral into a panic as she notices his rain-soaked shirt has become transparent. Completely flustered, she covers her mouth, finding the unexpected sight far too overwhelming. He calls out her name, confused by her sudden strange behavior. Looking up at the downpour, he confirms they'll have to stop their game for now. Yuka buries her face in the towel, her mind racing and her breathing becoming ragged. She imagines his disgusted reaction if he ever found out she was staring at him. The mere thought of his rejection sends her into a state of absolute panic. As he reaches out to check on her, she desperately tries to fight the urge to look. He gently touches her forehead to check for a fever, asking if she feels all right. Overwhelmed by his closeness, she feels her heart is about to burst from the intensity. He then drapes his own shirt over her shoulders to help her warm up. With a gentle smile, he explains that it's better than nothing to help with the cold. He apologizes for only having his shirt to offer, suggesting they wait for the rain to pass. As they stand together waiting out the storm, her heart continues to pound uncontrollably. Wrapped in his shirt and standing so close, she feels completely enveloped by his presence. He wrings out his wet pants and she feels as if she's being completely consumed by him. He suddenly turns around to face her, asking what the matter is. He makes a strange request, asking her to turn away for a moment, which only confuses her more. A sudden splash and rustling sound cause her to turn back around, wondering what's happening. She realizes he's wringing out his wet shirt, sending her into a state of pure shock. In a flustered panic, she tries to stop him, certain he brought a spare shirt with him. He stands shirtless and asks her to wait, but she's frozen, terrified to turn around and see him. Yuka internally argues with herself, convinced any girl in her position would be unable to look away. Her gaze remains fixed on him as he deals with his rain-soaked clothes. She takes a hesitant step forward, her mind racing with the possibility of closing the distance. Her imagination runs wild with possessive thoughts, believing no one would blame her for getting closer. Just as she's about to act, he finds his spare shirt, his hand accidentally brushing against hers. The unexpected touch sends her stumbling backward in shock, collapsing onto a nearby bench. Her mother's voice cuts through her daze, revealing the entire intense moment was just in her head. The narration concludes that in the end, Yuka was too much of a coward to act on her feelings. The scene changes to the girls' basketball club, where a friend's voice praises Yuka's skills. Her teammates crowd around her, congratulating her for making the starting lineup in the official match. Yuka beams with joy, thanking her teammates for their support on her first official start. Her celebration is cut short when an upperclassman summons the first-year players. She feels the weight of responsibility, determined to win for the teammates who didn't make the cut. However, an upperclassman immediately berates them, claiming they failed to clean the gym floor properly. The intimidating mentor questions their work, blaming them for any potential injuries to other teams. Despite knowing they did a thorough job, the first years have no choice but to agree to clean it all over again. Yuka clenches her fist in frustration, realizing this is nothing more than blatant harassment from the seniors. The mentor singles her out, and Yuka steels herself, deciding to just endure the unfair treatment. But the mentor gets aggressive, kicking a bench and warning Yuka not to get arrogant about her new position. She cruelly dismisses Yuka's success as mere favoritism from the coach, leaving the first year feeling utterly defeated. Yuka realizes the mentor's obsession with tearing her down stems from pure jealousy over a position she never even had. The mentor and her friend walk off with a dismissive glance, completely ignoring the first-year students. While practicing, Yuka wonders why the seniors don't just train harder instead of wasting time on harassment. Walking home, she concludes that the complicated social politics of school clubs are simply exhausting. She arrives at the basketball court for her usual practice, only to find it completely empty. Deciding to practice alone, she tries to shake off the lingering unease from the earlier confrontation. She credits her recent improvement and spot on the team entirely to her brother's dedicated training. With a slight blush, she decides to emulate his moves, fueled by her deep admiration for him. Her focus sharpens as she recalls every detail of his playing style, having memorized his every action. She expertly executes a series of complex dribbling techniques, perfectly mimicking her brother's form. With a burst of speed, she dribbles down the court, her eyes fixed on the goal. She leaps into the air, sinking a perfect shot with practiced grace. Wiping her brow, she admits she still can't master the difficult fadeaway shot. Her thoughts drift to her brother, marveling at how effortlessly he performs the same move. With a determined smile, she picks up the ball, ready to try again. Her solitary practice is suddenly interrupted as a group of students enters the court. One of the girls smugly comments on finding a good spot, catching Yuka's attention. The group approaches, with one girl pointing out that Yuka is already using the court. Yuka's eyes widen in panic as she recognizes one of the boys, wondering why he's here. They greet her with teasing praise about her diligence, and she nervously greets them back. Yuka's heart sinks as she realizes her friends have followed her to the court. The mentor suggests they practice there too, while Yuka internally panics, wanting to retreat. As she tries to leave, the mentor forcefully grabs her wrist, preventing her escape. The senior leans in, questioning Yuka's cold attitude with a condescending smile. With a menacing grin, the mentor insists they all practice together, leaving Yuka no choice but to agree. The upperclassmen taunt a breathless Yuka, questioning her stamina for a real game. Completely exhausted, Yuka struggles to catch her breath, having lost all track of time. Her tormentors watch with smug satisfaction as she wonders how long she's been running. She realizes the seniors are taking breaks while she's the only one being forced to practice relentlessly. The mentor approaches with a basketball, sarcastically inviting the star first year to a 2-on-2 match. Completely drained, Yuka bends over, desperately wishing for a single drop of water. The mentor orders her to start the 2-on-2 match, immediately putting her on the offensive. She quickly realizes her own teammate has no intention of helping, making this a cruel 2-on-1 setup. With a burst of determination, Yuka tries to dribble past the senior's aggressive defense. The two upperclassmen easily corner her, shutting down her every move with practiced ease. Her legs finally give out from exhaustion as the mentor taunts her, suggesting she withdraw from the team. Another girl yells at her to consider the mentor's feelings, pointing toward the sidelines. Yuka's eyes land on the mentor's boyfriend, who watches the entire spectacle with a bored expression. The scene abruptly shifts to a team meeting where the final list of bench members is being announced. As the names are read, someone calls out to Yuka, and she turns with a look of apprehension. Yuka recalls a kind upperclassman, Ayako, who always supported her. In a flashback, Ayako warmly congratulates Yuka for making the starting lineup. Yuka remembers feeling inspired by Ayako, who encouraged her even after Yuka took her spot on the team. The memory fades, returning to the harsh reality of the mentor berating an exhausted Yuka. The mentor's cruelty escalates as she forcefully shoves Yuka, sending her sprawling to the court floor. Crushed by the taunts, Yuka struggles to breathe, wondering why she has to endure such torment. She clings to the one thought keeping her going, her simple, pure love for the game of basketball. The upperclassmen loom over her, mocking her inability to get up and questioning her skills. Lying on the floor, she admits to herself that she's completely out of strength and can't move. Despite her exhaustion, a flicker of defiance ignites as she vows not to lose to people like them. Tears stream down her face, but her eyes burn with the refusal to be broken. A new voice interrupts the torment, dryly commenting on the group's idea of fun. Yuka's eyes widen in shock as she recognizes her brother Masato, arriving like a guardian angel. The story shifts to earlier that morning, showing Masato checking his phone just after waking up. He reads through his texts, remembering a conversation with Kumi about her being in the softball club. Seeing a message from Yuka, he's filled with a sense of pride and protectiveness for his little sister. He reflects on this new feeling, wondering if this is the bond siblings are supposed to share. Motivated by her dedication, he worries he'll lose to her soon and decides to get some exercise himself. As he approaches the court, he's surprised to see his sister isn't practicing alone. The scene snaps back to the confrontation, where a senior points out the struggling Yuka to him. Masato observes from a distance, quickly realizing this isn't a friendly practice session with her friends. He watches the unfair 2-on-1 match, his unease growing as he confirms something is very wrong. He hesitates by the fence, worried about interfering if he somehow misjudged the entire situation. That hesitation proves to be a grave mistake, as he witnesses the mentor aggressively shove his sister. Masato storms onto the court, his face a mask of fury as a tearful Yuka looks up at her brother in relief. The mentor and her friend confront him, arrogantly questioning who he is and why he's interrupting their practice. He glares at them, his voice dripping with contempt as he calls out their cruel idea of club practice. Yuka watches in awe from the ground, realizing this is the first time she has ever seen her brother truly angry. Ignoring the bullies, Masato kneels down and offers his sister a water bottle, telling her to get some rest. He gently apologizes for being late, his quiet concern causing a blush to spread across Yuka's face. Despite the awful situation, Yuka's heart flutters with joy just from having her brother there. The mentor confronts Masato, demanding to know what he hopes to accomplish by defending Yuka. The seniors try to justify their actions, claiming they were only testing Yuka's fitness for the team. Yuka desperately denies their claims, as the mentor insists the problem is Yuka's lack of skill. She internally accuses them of resorting to dirty tactics because they couldn't beat her in a fair match. Masato gently asks his sister if she can still play after resting, opening a drink for her. With a confident smile, he encourages her to show the upperclassmen her true strength. He pats her head reassuringly, and a determined Yuka agrees to the challenge he's just laid down. The mentor scoffs at the unfair odds, but Masato proposes a 2-on-4 match, even promising not to jump. The mentor smirks, underestimating them due to the height difference, and agrees to the lopsided game. Masato lays down the terms. If they win, the seniors must acknowledge Yuka's position as a starter. The mentor counters with a cruel condition, demanding Yuka withdraw from the team if they lose. Yuka hesitates, torn between her hard-earned spot and the immense pressure of the bet. Masato gives her a look of unwavering confidence, silently telling her he believes in her skills. Bolstered by his trust, Yuka grits her teeth and reluctantly agrees to the dangerous terms. She rises to her feet, boldly accepting the challenge and declaring they have no intention of losing. As they prepare to start on offense, Yuka realizes her brother already has a strategy in mind. The mentor and her friend immediately move to double-team Masato, trying to shut him down from the start. Yuka notes that their opponents are some of the best players, but Masato remains completely unfazed. With a sudden burst of speed, Masato effortlessly dribbles past both defenders, leaving them in the dust. The mentor furiously scolds her teammates, completely stunned by Masato's incredible speed. Yuka watches in awe, realizing her brother's skills are on a whole other level. She leaps into the air, perfectly timing her jump to receive his perfectly aimed pass. Her eyes widen in focus as she catches the ball, ready to make her move. Masato expertly draws the defender's attention before passing the ball to his open sister. The remaining upperclassmen scramble to block Yuka, but she's already one step ahead. The mentor grits her teeth in pure frustration, unable to stop the coordinated attack. With practiced grace, Yuka easily sinks the shot, scoring the first points of the match. Masato flashes a confident smile, holding up 2 fingers to signal their early lead. The bullies are left stunned and frustrated, unsure how to counter the siblings' flawless teamwork. Yuka acknowledges her fatigue but realizes that playing alongside her brother is just too much fun to stop. The siblings share a celebratory high five, their smiles radiating the pure joy of their flawless teamwork. As Masato rallies his sister for another point, the mentor glares at them, determined to shut down their next play. Yuka understands that Masato could have easily scored on his own during their last attack, but he chose to trust her, drawing the defenders away before passing her the ball. Holding the ball, Yuka vows to prove her own strength and show that all her training has paid off. The mentor is left breathless and confused as Yuka's sudden burst of skill leaves her in the dust. Yuka soars through the air and sinks another perfect shot, proving her hard work was worth it. The mentor and her boyfriend are left completely stunned, their faces a mask of disbelief. The upperclassmen descend into chaos, arguing about who should be defending against the unstoppable siblings. Masato's praise for her shot leaves a surprised Yuka looking back at him. Her friends cheer from the sidelines, impressed by the siblings' teamwork, as Yuka realizes her caution was unnecessary. He encourages her to take the lead next time, promising to back her up if she needs him. His unwavering trust fills her with 1,000,000 times more strength, and she eagerly accepts the challenge. The upperclassmen regroup, with 3 of them now swarming Yuka to shut her down. The mentor fumes, wondering who this skilled newcomer is, as Yuka faces her with a confident smile. Clutching the ball, Yuka thinks of her brother as her precious person, which only enrages the mentor further. She glances at Masato, determined to meet the high expectations he has for her. Yuka explodes with speed, easily dribbling past one of the stunned upperclassmen. The mentor lunges to stop her, but Yuka skillfully evades the aggressive block, keeping the play alive. Yuka executes a flawless leg-through and crossover, her confidence shining through. She unleashes her specialty move, blowing past the stunned upperclassmen with ease. The mentor can only watch in frustration as Yuka's fakes leave the defense in disarray. As she goes for the shot, another senior leaps to block her, certain she's made a mistake. But Masato suddenly appears, jumping into the play at the perfect moment. Yuka expertly passes the ball to her brother, who soars through the air to catch it. The mentor is left speechless, having seen this exact fadeaway shot countless times before. Yuka knows this move by heart, having watched her brother practice it endlessly. Masato internally notes that this was a difficult shot he only mastered in high school. The ball swishes cleanly through the net, securing another point for the unstoppable duo. Yuka recalls the aftermath, where the boys' basketball team confronted her bullies. The senior girls were even forced to apologize, clearly told to stop their harassment. She suspects her brother intervened, though he humbly deflects when she asks. Changing the subject, Masato praises her incredible final shot from their match. She blushes, insisting her skill is only because she's been studying his moves so closely. Overcome with emotion, she thanks him again, her face beaming with pure gratitude. A sudden thought strikes her, realizing she hasn't properly expressed her thanks. She bows deeply, formally thanking him for coming to her rescue. He surprises her by apologizing for not arriving sooner to help. He explains he was watching from a distance but rushed in the moment he saw the mentor shove her. He blames himself for her pain, wishing he had noticed the bullying sooner. His heartfelt apology brings her to the verge of tears. Masato's smile returns as he tells her how glad he was to be on her team. He playfully praises her skills, leaving a flustered Yuka to deny his compliments. With a blush, she admits that just playing with him was all that mattered to her. He suddenly stops her, his serious expression catching her completely off guard. Masato grabs her wrist and leans in, sending her mind into a state of pure panic. Her imagination runs wild as she wonders if this is the moment she's been dreaming of. She convinces herself that fate has led them to this perfect romantic opportunity. Her thoughts spiral out of control, unsure how to react as the moment intensifies. Her romantic fantasy is shattered as he simply peels the backing off a Band-Aid. She looks down at her arm, confused, as he thanks her for having a Band-Aid. With a gentle smile, he apologizes for not noticing she was hurt sooner. His kind apology is cut short as he's suddenly taken completely by surprise. Overwhelmed with emotion, Yuka throws her arms around him, her mind a complete jumble. She buries her face in his chest, deciding to let her feelings out, even if he thinks she's weird. He gently pats her head, praising her for doing a great job during their intense match. His simple compliment makes her heart soar, realizing just how much she likes him. Standing on the empty court, she confirms to herself that he is the only one she can see. The narration describes her holding him tightly, cementing her feelings in that one embrace. The scene shifts to Masato relaxing in his room, contentedly lying on his futon after a long day. His rest is interrupted as he remembers he needs to reply to some messages before turning in for the night. He scrolls through his contacts, noting a thank you from Yuka, a message from Sarah, and feeling a pang of concern for Mizuho. He realizes that since arriving in this world, he's mostly befriended women, including Kumi and the senpai from the bar. Kumi's message about tutoring catches his eye, and he briefly wonders if she's helping another girl before sending his replies. As he drifts off to sleep, he reflects that 2 months have passed since his arrival, and things have surprisingly gone smoothly. He thinks back on all the girls he's met, considering them all to be good people despite their different personalities. He remembers Aika's warning to be cautious around women, but dismisses it, feeling that he's handled everything well so far. Checking his phone one last time, he hopes his peaceful, normal life can continue without any major disruptions. Meanwhile, Yuka reflects on her own feelings, admitting that while her crush on Masato brings her joy, it also fills her with worry about his many female friends. Lying in bed, Yuka frets over Masato's tutoring, hoping he's not with another girl. She internally fumes over his cluelessness about his own charm and the mystery of his Friday job. Hugging her pillow, she steels her resolve, vowing not to back down from any potential rival. Her thoughts are interrupted by a late-night notification lighting up her phone screen. She jolts upright in shock, realizing the message is from Masato. Clutching her phone, she frantically hopes the student is a boy, or at the very least a young child. Her mind races with jealousy, imagining a confident high school girl as her rival. The message confirms her worst fear: he's tutoring a second-year high school student. The story then reveals the student is Aika, who clutches a book while fondly thinking of Masato. Alone in her room, she sits at her desk, completely absorbed in her thoughts of him. Aika closes her book, her thoughts consumed by the upcoming tutoring session. Meanwhile, Masato checks his bank account, puzzled by a payment that seems far too generous for a part-time job. He realizes both of his jobs were arranged by Aika and begins to suspect she's secretly helping with his finances. His financial concerns are interrupted by a sudden, unexpected call from Kumi. He recalls how awkward it was to explain one of his jobs, feeling completely out of place at a boys' bar. He answers the phone, having only told her about his more respectable Saturday tutoring gig. But her voice on the other end sends a sudden chill down his spine, leaving him completely startled. He panics as she questions him about tutoring a girl, her cold, emotionless tone making him wonder what he did wrong. After the call, he walks to his job, completely baffled by what triggers Kumi's sudden mood swings. He concludes that while he thought he understood girls, Kumi's sweet yet scary personality proves he has a lot to learn. He recalls his past life, where he even dated girls who confessed their feelings to him. Masato remembers how growing up with a female childhood friend made him comfortable talking to girls. A memory surfaces of a girl realizing his kindness wasn't special, just his default setting for everyone. He connects this to his upbringing in an orphanage, where being kind was a core lesson that shaped his entire worldview. He admits to himself that he didn't always handle his relationships well in his previous life. Masato reflects on how he treated all girls equally, unable to give special treatment to the one he was dating. Looking up at the sky, he feels it's too late to change his fundamental nature of being kind to all. With a sense of resolve, he continues on his way, putting his complicated thoughts aside. He arrives at a large, gated mansion, ready to switch gears and focus on his tutoring job. As he rings the doorbell, the gate clicks open and a voice calls out from inside the impressive home. Masato is greeted by the student's mother, who directs him to her daughter's room. The woman offers a kind and familiar welcome, smiling warmly at him. As he walks upstairs, he recalls that he's been tutoring the daughter of Aika's acquaintance for a month. Reaching her bedroom door, he knocks gently before entering. He politely announces his arrival, asking for permission to come inside. A young girl with large, curious eyes peeks out from the doorway as he greets her. She seems surprised by his casual attire, questioning why he isn't wearing his usual uniform. The girl is formally introduced as his student, a second-year high schooler named Shiori. She shyly explains her own choice of casual clothes, feeling a uniform would be strange on a day off. Masato gives her a charming smile, complimenting her outfit and noting how nice it is to see her in something new. She shyly compliments his appearance, but he teases that it won't get her out of doing her homework. His attention shifts to a book on her desk, and he asks what she was reading. He observes her proper demeanor, concluding she has the refined air of a model student from a wealthy family. She explains the book is an interesting work by a specific author, leaving him to ponder its poetic opening. Her intense passion for the literary work leaves him looking completely baffled. He internally notes her sudden awkwardness as she gives a flustered, vague agreement. A chibi Masato panics, fearing she realized his comment about the book was just an empty attempt to relate. He worries his conversation is too shallow for a literary girl like her and decides it's time to start the lesson. She, however, is lost in thought, still finding it unbelievable that such a wonderful person is in her room. Her confidence wavers as she questions whether she truly deserves to be around him, hinting at a secret self. Shiori reflects on her reputation as plain and frumpy, a label she once accepted without issue. She recalls her high school dream of finding a boyfriend, a hope that was quickly dashed by social reality. In her mind, the popular girls monopolized all the boys, leaving no chance for someone she considered a leftover. She tries to convince herself that she doesn't actually need a boyfriend to be happy. Observing her classmates, she internally justifies her single status by claiming to have impossibly high standards for boys. With a smug smile, she clutches a book, deciding it's a worthy substitute for real-life romance. She finds solace in her beloved fantasy novels, a world she can always escape into. In these stories, she finds characters with pure hearts, unlike the people in her real life. The fictional heroes are cool and the heroines have clear reasons to love them, a stark contrast to her own confusing world. Back in the classroom, she watches the popular kids, painfully aware of the gap between her fantasy world and her lonely reality. Shiori lets out a weary sigh, her expression soured by the social pressures of school. While her classmates socialize effortlessly, she remains isolated at her desk, a silent observer of their world. Arriving home, she plans to escape into video games, but her mother stops her on the stairs. She glumly concludes that her real life is a disappointment compared to her fictional escapes. Her mother immediately presses her, asking if she's made any friends or found a boyfriend yet. Caught off guard, Shiori awkwardly denies it, flustered by the sudden interrogation. Her mother launches into a familiar lecture about finding love, a speech Shiori has heard 1,000,000 times. The topic changes to her future, as her mother confirms her choice of college. A sudden idea strikes her mother, who remembers a potential solution to Shiori's academic and social woes. She reveals she's found a tutor from that very college, a suggestion that leaves Shiori utterly stunned. Shiori stubbornly refuses her mother's enthusiastic suggestion from the top of the stairs. Her mother insists she just meet the tutor once, revealing he's scheduled to arrive on Saturday. Annoyed by her mother's persistence, Shiori stomps up to her room. She justifies her refusal, claiming she prefers studying alone and finds socializing a complete hassle. Entering her room, she hatches a plan to invent an excuse and send the tutor packing immediately. On Saturday, Shiori is completely absorbed in her book, gushing over the flawless hero of the story. She kicks her feet excitedly on her bed, declaring the fictional character a perfect, godlike being. Her excitement fades as she reminds herself that such perfection only exists in the world of fiction. Just as her mother announces the tutor's arrival, Shiori scoffs at the idea of a perfect person existing in reality. Her cynical thoughts are cut short by a sudden panic as she realizes she's still in her school uniform. Shiori dismisses her own appearance, convinced the tutor won't be staying long anyway. A polite voice greets her from the other side of the door, formally addressing her by name. She reluctantly opens the door, already dreading the thought of a tutoring session after a long school day. But her annoyance evaporates the moment she sees her impossibly handsome tutor standing before her. Her mother proudly introduces Masato, gushing about his good looks and nudging her speechless daughter to say hello. Shiori's mind short-circuits as she panics, desperately asking for a moment alone. She slams the door, collapsing in a flustered mess, horrified that her mother hid the tutor's gender. Fuming, she silently accuses her mother of setting her up and vows revenge while scrambling around her room. Her panic intensifies as she spots her clothes, gaming console, and otaku merchandise left out in plain sight. In a desperate attempt to hide her hobbies, she quickly throws a blanket over the evidence. She panics, realizing her room is filled with racy novels and manga she must hide. Adjusting her glasses in the mirror, she admits to herself that the tutor was surprisingly handsome. She nervously peeks out the door, apologizing for making him wait. He smiles warmly, blaming the mix-up on her mother as she invites him to sit down. Her mind races with the unbelievable reality that an attractive guy is now in her bedroom. She tries to calm her racing heart, convinced this situation is too good to be true. To cope, she convinces herself he must have a terrible personality to balance out his good looks. Overwhelmed by anxiety, she can barely speak, her voice coming out as a nervous squeak. Pulling herself together, she clarifies that today is just an interview to decide if he gets the job. Masato kindly offers a way out, suggesting she can just tell her mother her decision later if she's uncomfortable. His considerate offer completely disarms her, leaving her to wonder if he's just too nice. He tries to connect over her college choice, cheerfully concluding she must be a book lover. Her cynical side kicks in, convinced his kindness is just a manipulative act to secure the job. He follows up with a charming smile, asking about her favorite books, which only intensifies her flustered state. His simple question sends her into a silent panic, leaving him completely baffled by her reaction. She internally freaks out, realizing she can't admit her love for cheesy romance novels without scaring him off. Desperate to sound impressive, she lies and claims to enjoy highbrow literary fiction. He humbly admits that he also struggles with formal literature, finding it difficult to get into. His flawless response leaves her stunned, unable to believe someone so perfect could actually exist. Overwhelmed by his perfection, she cracks under the pressure and blurts out that she was lying the whole time. Shiori internally justifies her rudeness, convinced it's a necessary test to reveal his true ugly personality. She pushes further, asking why someone like him would bother tutoring a plain girl instead of someone cute. Internally, she dares him to get angry, but he calmly states that her appearance doesn't matter to him at all. He promises that as long as she's trying hard to get into college, he'll do everything he can to help her. His genuine sincerity leaves a flustered Shiori completely speechless as he continues. With a radiant smile, he calls her a wonderful person, admitting he thought she was beautiful when he first saw her. The unexpected compliment hits her like a shockwave, sending a deep blush across her entire face. In her mind, he transforms into a fantasy hero who has crossed dimensions just to meet her. She buries her face in her hands, her heart pounding as she replays his kind words over and over. Later that night, she's completely smitten with the reality that this perfect boy will be visiting her room every week. She kicks her feet on the bed, her mind racing with romantic fantasies of an accidental encounter. Clutching her book, she realizes a prince-like guy like Masato would never fall for someone like her. The book's cover shows a perfect hero with his beautiful heroine, setting an impossible standard. A sudden jolt of reality hits her as she sits up, determined to change her fate. Looking in the mirror, she sees her plain reflection, painfully aware she doesn't look like the heroines from her stories. Her own inner critic mocks her delusions, forcing her to accept she must become a heroine herself. Inspired by her fictional idol, she begs her mother to teach her the art of makeup. From that day forward, she ditches her glasses for contacts and lets her hair down, completely reinventing herself. With newfound confidence, she stands ready to take on the world with her new look. Back in the classroom, her transformation draws stares from her classmates, who gossip about her sudden change. Shiori stands nervously in the classroom, her new look making her feel incredibly self-conscious. She worries that her classmates are judging her, thinking she's just a frumpy girl trying too hard. Her anxiety spikes as the popular girls in her class suddenly approach her desk. To her surprise, one of them compliments her new vibe, asking if she got a makeover. Flustered but relieved, Shiori shyly confirms that she has indeed changed her style. She reflects on how she misjudged them, realizing that once she talked to them, they became fast friends. Her new friends even took her shopping, helping her pick out cute clothes since she had none. Shiori admits that she was the one who had been closing herself off from others all along. She feels confident that her new prim and proper look is exactly what she needs to impress Masato. Believing she's finally worthy of her hero, her thoughts are interrupted by Masato's voice at her door. She's completely captivated by his radiant smile, struggling to contain her reaction. He notices the book on her desk and asks what she was reading, catching her off guard. She internally panics, remembering she disguised her racy novel with a more respectable book cover. Her thoughts reveal the book's true, steamy contents, causing her to break out in a nervous sweat. He recognizes the fake cover's title, cheerfully quoting its poetic opening line. Her internal panic returns, admitting to herself she's never even read the book on the fake cover. He decides to start the lesson as she nervously agrees, vowing to read the other book later. Her mind wanders, contrasting the poetic title with the much more direct fantasies in her actual romance novel. The narration explains a complex literary detail about how a character's name is read. He looks on, completely baffled, as she closes her eyes and melts into a state of pure happiness. She admits to herself that while she dislikes studying, she cherishes this private time with Masato. Despite his clear explanations, she struggles with the difficult text, feeling hopelessly inadequate. Determined not to be a burden, she vows to understand the material no matter how hard it is. He leans in closer, offering to trace the passage with his finger, which only makes her more flustered. As he guides her through the text, she's completely captivated by his voice and proximity. Her panic spikes when she feels his hand resting on her back as he points to the book. The unexpected closeness sends her mind into a dizzying spiral, leaving her completely overwhelmed. The simple act of him leaning over her chair feels far too intimate for her to handle. Unable to take it anymore, she abruptly makes an excuse and flees the room, leaving him confused. Alone, she covers her mouth, her entire body trembling from the overwhelming emotional rush. She slides down the door, still reeling from the phantom sensation of his touch all over her body. Her prim and proper mask begins to crack as she scolds herself for having thoughts unbecoming of a heroine. Back in the room, a confused Masato worries that he invaded her personal space and made her uncomfortable. Shiori clutches her chest, overwhelmed by the intense feelings she's desperately trying to contain. Her imagination runs wild as she's overcome by a powerful and possessive urge she can barely control. A dazed and ecstatic expression takes over her face, completely lost in her overwhelming fantasies. She imagines a future moment with him, wanting to feel his presence without any barriers between them. Masato's confusion deepens, wondering if he somehow angered her, completely unaware of her internal monologue. With a look of fierce determination, Shiori covers her mouth and vows to win him over, no matter what it takes.